Good morning, everyone. I am Joanna Craney from Empowered Financial Strategies. I'm a financial advisor, co-founder, and co-partner with Carolyn Humphrey. And we are here today with Christy Holland from Plan of PA. I am really excited to have Christy with us today. I met Christy a few years ago. She came from an introduction from an attorney that I was working with on a special needs plan. And I was looking for a care management agency and a trust administration agency, and she told me you have to talk to Christy Holland of Plan of PA. So I am so glad to have Christy here with us today. And what really struck me about Plan of PA, well, first of all, Christy's energy is absolutely amazing. So we immediately connected, and her passion for really advocating for the disability community really spoke to me. But Plan of PA is a grassroots organization supporting individuals with behavioral health and intellectual disabilities create a healthier, happier, more meaningful life. So that is what really drew me in to know more about Plan of PA. So thank you, Christy, so much for being here with us today. Would you like to introduce yourself and really just tell us more about how Plan of PA came to be?
Right. Well, I think probably families would be most interested in Plan rather than me. But I will say that I've had a career in the nonprofit space, specifically in behavioral health and intellectual disabilities. And in a myriad of roles and positions, I ended up working for a nonprofit that was consulting with organizations such as Plan of PA. So I began my relationship with Plan of PA in this consultative role, and really the mission spoke to me so strongly that I left the consulting agency and ended up staying as the executive director. So I've been at Plan since about 2014. And the reason that I like Plan of PA so much, and the reason it kind of syncs with me, is this idea of assisting families to better understand how to give resources, how to get resources in the present, and also plan for the future. So that's my motivation for being a part of the Plan team. So
that's awesome. So how did Plan of PA start? I mean, wasn't it started by a group of families who saw a need?
Yeah, it's really unique because this group of families came together, and of course, every family, is concerned about their children and how their children are going to succeed in the world and how to best prepare. But when your child has some level of living with a challenge, such as a behavioral health diagnosis, an intellectual disability, a physical challenge, it kind of ratchets everything up, especially if the adult child is somewhat dependent on the parents. So what these parents were trying to do, these families were trying to do, is set up for an organization to partner with the person living with some level of disability, their existing support system, whatever that might look like, and be a part of a continuance when the parents were no longer able. So that's a pretty unique thing, right? Yeah, parents getting together and creating an organization. And that was back in the late 80s. And, wow. We still exist for the same purpose.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And I mean, that was going to lead me to my next question, which you pretty much answered, is like, how is Plan of PA unique in serving the disability community? Like, what makes them different? And I certainly think that does make them different.
Well, for a long time, I feel like we were a best kept secret. We were serving a group of families for a distinctive purpose and making a difference through being a fiduciary of a trust and all that goes in with that role, and through being the designer of social services support. So through care management, we would look at the person, their life goals, and support them to achieve those goals. And through this integration of a set aside resource that could pay for the social supports in addition to other things. That's what the families really wanted. So now I believe we're very close to that. Of course, the landscape has changed since the late 80s, so we've evolved with it.
Right. It certainly has changed. Can you kind of give me a sense of how Plan of PA has an impact on families while the caregiver is still here, still able to take care of their loved one, and how that transitions when the caregiver, may not be able to do all the things that they were used to doing, and then, when they're no longer here, what does that look like?
So one of the most interesting parts of leading this organization and being responsible for this mission and offering it to the community is to think about how things feel from the family's perspective. So, imagine yourself a family member, and, many people don't have to imagine that are listening to this. They indeed are a family member supporting someone with some level of challenge and disability. So what we want to do is first meet that person, that support, whoever's coming to us saying, hey, I'd like some help. And what we'd like to do is kind of de-escalate the level of stress that families tend to feel, because normally, families are doing the best that they can in the moment across, all counties, all states, all regions of the world. Families are doing their best, right? Mm-hmm. So what we want to do is provide additional assistance where our expertise is. So in planning. So people are so much thinking about the moment, how much energy do they have to think about the future? And when they think about the future, does panic and stress kind of sideline them from being able to plan? And, that's a human thing. That's not something people, a certain group of people feel. We all feel that way.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So that's one of the biggest things that I want to do, is think about what is stressing the family out, what is getting in the way of the planning, and how can we chunk things out so that it's more manageable to get on a path for a good plan, which, by the way, is why we're called Plan, because we're all about the planning. But we want to do it in such a way that supports. So in working with someone like yourself, for instance, which is how we even really got to know each other, I could say to a family, there are a there are a set of trust vehicles that can help you in your planning. And they might say, well, I don't have money for a trust. Well, if, you would meet with a financial advisor such as Joanna, she can show you various ways that maybe you're not able to see that could fund a trust now or in the future. Someone of the legal profession can assist them with developing a trust document. We can talk to people about the social service supports and the role of a fiduciary, and also how to choose a fiduciary. And by chunking it out in this way, planning starts to happen with people instead of a family feeling like they're all alone and they don't know where to go from here. And I think that's the biggest barrier. It's one thing to have knowledge, to have information, and to offer it to people. But I think what's really most helpful is to work in partnership, Plan of PA and Empowered Financial, Plan of PA and other legal professionals, and start to develop, a system with the family in accordance to their preferences, their goals, or with the person if the family is no longer in the picture.
Yeah, it sounds like, you're right on board with creating a team, really, that serves the family, serves the person with a disability from all aspects, and really coordinating that plan. But I think you're so much on target with families that are literally putting out fires every single day. Like, how can they even possibly think about what tomorrow looks like? That is definitely something that I see on a day-to-day basis with my clients, which is, again, like you had said, chunking things, like kind of slowing it down. Let's focus on one specific area, manage that first, and accomplish that plan first, because there are so many moving pieces, right?
Right.
There's so many moving pieces to this type of planning, and it can be so overwhelming. And when people are overwhelmed, they just do nothing. And doing nothing and procrastinating can be so disastrous. So
and you catastrophize, and the more you catastrophize in your mind, the more the solutions are out of your grasp. So, and like I said, this is not unique to anyone. This is a human condition. Right. Joanna's my financial advisor, and she sees my procrastination, like just a human tendency.
Yeah, it is a human tendency. We all have blocks, right? So it's really like uncovering what is the obstacle, like you said, what is holding you back. Let's focus on how we can move past that so that we can have a successful story, right? So we can actually create a plan so that our loved one is not left in destitute, or not left without supports around them. So that is fantastic. And you mentioned the word fiduciary. And for our listeners, can you kind of give us an idea, what is a fiduciary? Why is that even important?
Right. So I was talking about more how we do what we do, but a fiduciary is one of the things that we actually do. It's more of the what. So we have two main service areas, and one is trust services. Within trust services, we often serve as the fiduciary of a trust. And what that means is we're, in some regards, the gatekeeper of the funds. So a certain amount of funding gets set aside in a trust, and we have the fiduciary responsibility to set up an investment portfolio with someone like yourself, to set up a budget in accordance with the person's needs and goals and aspirations, and to think around the corner. Maybe the person wants, just like we all would if we had a trust, this, that, or the other thing, a new car or a new computer or something glitzy. We get that, and sometimes the trust can be used for that, but sometimes we have to be the one to say, let's save some money for the future because, we want to be able to do this, because as you age, so it's long-term planning, and we're kind of in the position of quarterback, limit setter, budget. We give the disbursements out of the trust, and we're held accountable to a set of rules, which is why the person sets the trust up to begin with. So why would you give someone else your money and say you can be in charge of this money? Why wouldn't you keep it yourself? Well, there's two reasons. One reason is it's because as soon as the trust it's set aside in the trust, you're eligible for certain federal or county benefits, right? And if you had that money as the person living with a disability, you would no longer be eligible. So that's one reason. But the other reason is for planning purposes, so that you have people that understand what your goals and aspirations are beyond the moment, that are thinking broader than we can each think as an individual. That's what our trust service does. So we get to know the person, their support system, the goals, what assets, and by assets, I don't just mean financial assets, but, all of the things that can be carefully orchestrated for the best life for the person.
Yeah. And, you said something that really spoke to me, is that, like, how you really get to know these families, and you really get to know the person with a disability or a challenge or a need. That is why it is so critical to start the planning now. That is why it's so critical to not wait until you're no longer able to have that conversation. Yes. Because how else would Plan or any other organization know what your wants, what your vision is for this person's continued care and quality of life. So this is why it's so important to not procrastinate, and to certainly, reach out to Christy and set up a meeting with her to get the planning started now. So for our viewers today, what is the best way to contact you? What is the best way to get in contact with Planet PA to engage in your services?
So you can call us on the phone. We will answer the phone. We also have a website that you can inquire through an email. And so www.planofpa.org is our website. A Google search will probably get you to us. And, you can contact us through there. And that has the phone number on there, email, etc. And, for that matter, you can set up an appointment and come in. We can set up a Zoom with you, a phone conversation. And, what we really want to do is get to know you and where you are, because maybe your needs are more along the lines of benefits, and you would meet with our care management supervisor, and she would, ask you, well, what benefits do you have in place? What housing plans do you have in place? What are the medical needs that are presenting right now? And is your loved one supported? Do they need help with their finances, and what are the presenting needs now and for the future? And that would be more of a care management thing. If it makes sense to have a trust, you'd probably meet with our trust officer first and get to know, the various different trust vehicles that might be available to you, or possibly you already have a trust and you're looking for a fiduciary. And then we can tell you our approach, and you can determine, is this an approach that feels good to me?
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I really do appreciate you being here, as well as being a resource for our listeners today. Please don't hesitate to reach out to Christy Holland or myself. You can find me online if you Google Empowered Financial Strategies or www.empowered-fs.com, or you can reach me at 610-771-1078. Again, thank you so much, Christy, for being here today. We really appreciate your time in serving the disability community, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Christy.